In today's video, you are going to find out whether or not you suck at breathing. Just kidding. You don't suck at breathing. Well, you might, but that's okay. That's not your fault because as a society, we do a terrible job educating people on what it means to breathe properly. As a result of improper breathing habits, millions of people struggle with low energy, bad sleep, brain fog, anxiety is a huge one. Improper breathing can also lead to things like low back pain, heart problems, even autoimmune disease in more extreme cases. It's estimated that up to 80% of people in the US struggle with dysfunctional breathing. So in this video, we are going to go over the 3 most common breathing mistakes, how to identify if it's a problem for you, and then finally we'll go over one exercise you can use to completely transform all of your poor breathing habits. My name is Reed and I am a certified Wim Hof Method instructor and a breathing coach for jiu-jitsu athletes. So obviously breathing has huge effects on athletic performance, but even more importantly, it has huge effects on overall health. So let's get into the 3 most common breathing mistakes. Problem number 1, mouth breathing. The reason that a lot of us are mouth breathing on a regular basis is mouth breathing actually makes it easier to get air into your body versus nasal breathing. The problem with this is our bodies are not designed to handle mouth breathing on a regular basis. Mouth breathing is actually intended to be part of a fight or flight response. So if we're in danger, if we need to quickly run away from something, if we need to quickly use a lot of energy, basically mouth breathing allows us to get as much air into our body as possible, even though it's not really going to use that air efficiently. If you're in rest, if you're, say, working at your desk and you're mouth breathing, you're basically putting yourself into a stressed state where you're going to be burning through energy, you're going to be feeling anxious, and you are not going to be feeling recovered. So, nasal breathing, you may have guessed, actually does the opposite. So nasal breathing is going to trigger a relaxing state from our brain. It's going to help with recovery, it's going to help with digestion. Overall, it's going to make us feel better and more relaxed. In addition to good recovery and reducing anxiety, the nose also performs multiple very important functions for breathing. First of all, nasal breathing is going to humidify the air you breathe in, it's going to warm the air you breathe in, and it's also going to filter it. In addition to those 3, your nose also produces a gas called nitric oxide, which basically mixes in our lungs with the oxygen and allows oxygen to be used more efficiently in our bodies. So, how can you tell if mouth breathing is a problem for you? Well, this one's pretty simple. Basically, all you're gonna do is a few times throughout the day, just stop and pay attention to whether you are mouth breathing or nasal breathing. You might even find that there's certain activities or certain times of the day when you start to shift towards mouth breathing, so just make mental note of those. And those are times when specifically you'll wanna focus on getting back to nasal breathing. Now, checking your breathing during the day is easy. Checking your breathing while you're sleeping is not. We sleep for 1/3 of our time. We definitely don't want to neglect that time and we don't want to spend the whole night mouth breathing. So a few things you can do. When you wake up in the morning, check to see if your mouth is dry or if you have extra bad breath. Those are signs of mouth breathing. If you have a roommate or a partner, you can also ask them if you were snoring, if you were tossing and turning a lot. Those are also signs of mouth breathing, and they're preventing you from getting into a deep stage of sleep. Problem number 2, chest breathing. When you breathe into your chest, it means you're getting a very shallow breath, which means you're not really getting air properly into your lungs and into your body. If you take a breath in and you notice that your chest rises and expands, that means that you're really just getting air into that upper section of your lungs. Ideally, what we want to happen is our diaphragm, which is the large breathing muscle right here in our midsection, when we breathe in, that muscle should be pulling down, which allows more air to go into the lower part of our lungs, and that's what causes our belly to go out. And that's why it's usually referred to as belly breathing or diaphragm breathing. So remember, chest breathing is very shallow, belly breathing or diaphragm breathing is very deep. Now the problem with chest breathing is similar to mouth breathing. Chest breathing puts your body into a fight or flight state. So if you're just sitting at your desk working and you're only really getting air into your chest, you're not going to be properly relaxed and you're most likely going to feel low energy, you're going to feel anxiety. In order to be properly in a relaxed state, we need to be using our diaphragm to breathe all the way down into the lower part of our lungs, which is going to be causing our belly to expand. Another reason that belly breathing is so important is the diaphragm muscle is actually used to help support and stabilize your spine. So when you breathe down deep into your belly and you get that good diaphragm activation, you're providing your spine with extra support, which is going to be good for your lower back and good for your posture. So on the flip side, if you're spending all day just breathing shallowly into your chest, you're more likely to experience back pain because you're not properly supporting your spine the way that the body is intended to. So, how can you tell if chest breathing is a problem for you? What I want you to do is go ahead and place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. When you inhale, the hand that's on your belly should be pushing out as your lower lungs expand and fill with air. And then as you exhale, that hand should be moving back in. Ideally, the hand that's on my chest should be staying relatively still because my chest shouldn't really be moving as I'm inhaling or exhaling. Now, if you are chest breathing, what's gonna happen is most of the movement is gonna come from your chest. So as you inhale, your chest is gonna rise and expand, and the hand that's on your belly is gonna stay relatively still, or it might even suck in towards your body, which is even worse. So if that's the case, I want you to take note of that, and that is something that we are going to need to fix in our final exercise. So that brings us to problem number 3, which is overbreathing. The ideal number of breaths that we should be taking is between 4 and 6 per minute. The problem is a lot of people are spending their time overbreathing. So if you're taking between 12 and 20 breaths per minute, then you might have guessed it, you're putting your body into a fight or flight state. Might be catching on to the pattern here. So what we want to do instead is we want to slow down our breathing. In addition to keeping our body in a relaxed state, the other reason we want to slow down our breathing is carbon dioxide buildup. So carbon dioxide is a gas that we release out of our body every time we exhale. A lot of people think of carbon dioxide as a bad thing. It's usually referred to as a waste gas, but it's actually very important to have some level of carbon dioxide built up in our lungs because that's what allows oxygen to move throughout our body more efficiently. So the reason for that is there's a protein called hemoglobin, which increases along with carbon dioxide. So if we're low on carbon dioxide, we're gonna be low on hemoglobin, so our oxygen is not gonna be moved throughout our body very efficiently. So if you think about it, every time you're exhaling, you're releasing carbon dioxide. So if you're breathing 20 times per minute, you're gonna be constantly getting rid of that carbon dioxide, not giving it time to build up in your body. So that's why we want to try and slow down to closer to 4 to 6 breaths per minute. That way we're delaying our exhales and we're giving our body time to build up that carbon dioxide, which is then going to allow our body to use oxygen more efficiently. You would think that breathing more often gives your body more oxygen, but in reality, breathing more often gives your body less time to actually use that oxygen. How to tell if you're overbreathing. So what I want you to do is go ahead and set a timer on your watch or on your phone for 1 minute. And what we're gonna do is count how many breaths we take during that minute. Do your best to just breathe normally and try not to change the rate just because you know you're counting. Go ahead and pause the video, count your breaths for 1 minute, and then come back when you're ready. So as you're evaluating that number, remember 4 to 6 breaths per minute is ideal, and anything over 12 means you're most likely stressed, anxious, and in a fight or flight state. Make note of that number, and that's something that we're gonna wanna correct in our final exercise. So we have checked whether we are mouth breathing, whether we're chest breathing, and whether we are over breathing. So let's go ahead and get into the one exercise we can use to fix all three of those problems. For this exercise, we are going to need a place to lay down. This could be a yoga mat, this could be a bed, either one will work. We'll need a timer, and then finally we'll need some kind of weight or small object. So what we're going to do is go ahead and lay down, and if your lower back doesn't quite lay flat against the surface beneath you, go ahead and bend your knees a little bit, and that should help close in that gap. Now take your object or weight and put it slightly above your belly button. And our first goal during this exercise is going to be to raise and lower this object using our diaphragm muscles. So every time we inhale, the object should rise. Every time we exhale, the object should fall. And in order to do that, it requires us to actually be activating and using our diaphragm while we're breathing. Our second goal is for every inhale and every exhale to be through our nose. So we shouldn't be mouth breathing at all. Everything should be happening through the nose during this exercise. Now the final goal is going to be to control our breathing to a count of 6 seconds for our inhale and 6 seconds for our exhale, which is going to come out to a total of 5 breaths per minute. Set a timer for 3 minutes, and then go ahead and start your breathing. So remember, inhales should be to a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then another 6 for the exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And with every breath, we should be making sure that the object is lifting up during the inhale and then dropping back down during the exhale. Now, if you can't quite get your inhale and exhale time up to 6 seconds and you feel like you need to breathe more often, that's no problem, but ultimately your goal should be to try and get to that 6-second mark. And as you reach the end of that 3 minutes, go ahead and return back to normal breathing, but pay attention to how you feel and whether you are breathing differently than you were before. So what I want you to do is every day for the next 2 weeks, I want you to do that exercise first thing in the morning and then again before bed. And that is going to help you to reprogram your breathing habits and make sure you have proper breathing mechanics. You can also revisit that exercise anytime throughout the day when you feel like you need a reset. If you're at the office working, maybe don't lay on the floor or you might get some weird looks from Susan in accounting, but go ahead, sit at your desk and focus on nasal breathing, on diaphragm breathing, and on slow breathing. So that concludes our video on the 3 most common breathing problems and how to fix them. So if you enjoyed the video and you want to learn more about optimal breathing for health and athletic performance, then please like the video and subscribe for more content.